Hello everyone, happy Wednesday. Welcome to another inspired fireside chat. Today we have with us Mikaila Cruz. We're so excited to have her because we're going to talk about empowerment. Mikaila is a 9/11 survivor, yoga instructor, an empowerment coach. And today we're going to discuss especially what empower means in us, women. My name is Paola Shah. I am the founder and CEO of Tucketts. Tucketts are high-performance grip socks that enhance the foot-brain connection and give you confidence to step in any foot activity. And remember, our mission is to elevate you through your feet. I see Mikaila is here. This is great. We wait 1 or 2 seconds. Hello. Good. Well, you're in New York. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Oh, yes. Great. Sometimes it takes a bit. Mikaila, thank you so much for being here with us. We're
Oh, thank
so
you.
happy to have you. And then let's just start with who you are. I prefer for my guests to introduce themselves because I don't want to miss anything. So, who is Mikaila today?
Well, Mikaila today is more of an explorer than I've ever been. As a young girl, I was taught very early on to be an explorer of experiences, explorer of places, explorer of different cultures. And so my family, my mother and father introduced me to travel when I was a little girl. And through the years, I found myself kind of drawn in to the spiritual practice of yoga. And one day I just decided, because surviving 9/11 was a turning point in my life. And so that actually brought me to a place where I said, well, if I can live my life as an explorer and not even traveling, just being connected with people online, such as yourself, and those who want to learn about the inner journey, that's where Mikaila is today.
Wow, the inner journey. And actually, it's something that is completely interconnected to our body, our feet, who we are, what we do, right? And probably the issue or the main thing here is like sometimes we leave it on the side. I think it's always there, but we don't want to look at it, right? So you have been named by the CNN, the BBC, the Washington Post as the woman of empowerment. What does it mean?
When I was interviewed by the Washington Post, I had no idea that they would consider me a woman of empowerment. I shared my personal experience on 9/11. I told them that I was coming out with a book. The announcement and the way I communicated with the reporter, I realized that empowerment was not for me to actually, my job was not to empower others. The woman of empowerment for me meant that me, myself, connected, would empower myself and not look outwards for people to empower me with their words or their actions. And if it was based on the empowerment that I've had within, because it's a mirror of who we are. When we're inspired by someone, we're empowered by someone, it's a direct reflection of the empowerment and inspiration that we can find within ourselves. So even though we're connected, we can still find that connection within us to share that. And I think that's why the empowerment name I found to be the inspiration for my company, for my upcoming book, for things that I want to ensure to people that we're all empowered within.
So, what's your company about?
The Empowerment Within is a consulting company. And what I do is the influencer name to me is not, it really doesn't resonate with me because I am selective. So the Empowerment Within is basically a consulting company, and I help small businesses build their engagement through social media. And because of my beliefs as a vegan, I am selective. So the clients that I bring on are socially conscious, environmentally conscious,
Mm-hmm.
and and of course I work with bigger companies, but I prefer to work with those who, especially during this time of uncertainty, especially when a lot of people have started up new businesses only to see them collapse during COVID. To me, helping them and giving part of myself to them is something that I've always wanted to do, and this is the opportunity for me to do that today.
Wow, this is this is great, and I love how clear you have your values and that those should align with the
Thank you.
company values, which is this is why we're here. Like at Tucketts, we have also very high values in terms of what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. Yeah, so love it. And then, so let's keep talking about empowering and even either being empowered by someone else or just self-empowerment. But overall is how to identify that a woman, in particular, today we're talking about us women, is not empowered. How do you identify yourself as being not empowered? What are the things that we can kind of be aware of?
When we decide to betray ourselves, when we make decisions that are not our own, when we please people in order to make them happy, and in the back of our minds and in our hearts we completely disagree with that decision. That's how I myself have felt disempowered, weak. But awareness is the first step towards change. And if we not only listen to our inner voice, but we feel it in our bones that the decisions that we make are not our own, that the life that we're living is not our own, we can shift that idea to, okay, am I compromising? Am I actually loving that person enough to say, yes, okay, I'll give a little this, a little bit that. But then if it's something that truly makes you unhappy and you can't sleep that night because you're saying, why did I say yes to that person? Why did I compromise my own integrity in order to make somebody else happy? Then all of a sudden I'm suffering. And Buddha said, expectation is the worst form of suffering, because you expect others to feel how we feel, expect others to do what we do. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, with empowering yourself, again, it's shifting that idea where, okay, I can set boundaries and I can make decisions based on what I feel in my heart. And that's how we can build the foundation of empowerment again within ourselves.
So as you're talking, I was thinking of awareness. That was the word that came to my mind. And basically, I feel like in order to empower ourselves, we first need to be aware of what's going on. And sometimes we live so much in our mind, in that 100 million thoughts that come, and we kind of build a reality, a fake reality in our mind, which is very far from the present, right? So as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, what tool do we have to start bringing that awareness? So from your point of view, how can we get into that first step of being aware of, all those things that are not working for us?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with training the mind through mm-hmm. meditation. I've been practicing for 20 years in different types of meditation, guided meditation, transcendental, Buddhist, Zen. And those thoughts in meditation, we can find ourselves separating from the thoughts, that we are not our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And I think when we do that consistently, we can find that awareness. We can actually wake up to the reality that is different than the reality that we've continued to be on autopilot in our minds every single day. Mm-hmm. we are not getting into our cars and grabbing lunch and the next, and that night saying, what did I have for lunch? You don't remember driving to work because you do it every single day. I think that's what's going on right now in society. I mean, obviously with COVID, people are staying home still, but when you feel that you're on autopilot, there's no awareness. There's no feeling like what time is just leaving me. Time is just moving so fast. But when you're meditating every day, you're taking 5-10 minutes a day, those thoughts in your head become the thoughts that are separate from your true self. And that's one of ultimate peace. Ultimate, because I've been I do a weekly guided meditation every Wednesday, and what I find is that for 15 minutes, even though I'm the guide, I feel my own meditative practice of awareness increasing every week. So meditation is the foundation of separating those thoughts, I think.
And then you said you started meditating 20 years ago. Was it because of 9/11, the trauma, or were you doing it before, after?
I started my meditative practice a year before September 11th. I moved into a new place and I wanted to start my life over. So I started running, I started practicing yoga, and then I found this video about meditation. So I said, my dad did it, and he said it was the best tool for being a better student, being a better worker, and being a better human. Mm-hmm. So at first, I sat for a minute, couldn't do it. I think it was like maybe 30 seconds. And then, a minute became 5 and became 10. But the meditative practice helped me through 9/11. A year after was when I started really delving into the power of meditation, because suffering from PTSD, trauma, the constant thoughts of my friends dying in one day, if I did not have meditation and I did not have yoga in my life, it's actually a part of me now. It's a part of my consciousness. And I think healing through that kind of trauma was through meditation.
Right. Yeah. When I moved, I live now in Colorado, but when I moved to New York, I moved from LA, and this is where I found meditation. So I practice Zen meditation. But kind of when it did a real click to me is also when I started noticing how I was judging myself, and then the same way I would judge others. So whatever you do to others, you do to yourself. Whatever you do to yourself, you do to others, right? And I remember walking in Fifth Avenue in New York, and I saw this woman with a yellow top, green pants, and red shoes. And then in my mind, I was like, she's wearing a yellow top, green pants, and red shoes. Gone. And that's it. And that was after like practicing meditation for a couple of years. And then I realized like, wow, that's the shifting. When you stop judging and you just see reality as is. You just name things as they are, and the same with yourself, right? So for most people, I would say, it's very hard, the concept of meditation, right? Because I think there is this false view that you're going to empty your mind, or you have to have a blank mind. And then so for someone that is trying to meditate, or has never meditated, or that has done it, but that, didn't work for them, what tip do you have, like very practical tip to help them, or even me, to always keep going?
I think because on average we have about 50,000 thoughts a day. To imagine a thoughtless mind is almost impossible.
It's like asking the heart not to beat, right?
Right. And so one of my teachers, when I first began in meditation, he said, if you believe that you can just remove your thoughts in meditation, all of them, you're going to go insane, completely insane. He said, know that they're there. Be a witness. So when you're actually the seer and you're the witness to the thoughts, that means that you are not your thoughts, and that you could take those thoughts and say, okay, they're there, but it has nothing to do with my breath. And what he taught me was, anytime you notice thoughts, say to yourself, I'm returning to the breath. I'm returning home. I'm returning home. So it's not forcing the thoughts to leave you. It's just knowing that they're there. And that's okay, because they're going to come in after the meditation anyway, but at least your breath is your home. So as you inhale, I'm here. Exhale, I'm home.
And now you mentioned breathing. And I think even not only for meditation, but for any activity that we do, right? Like if we do yoga, we do Pilates, or we run, like we hike, everything is about how you breathe, right? So, so what are your thoughts on being in this sync relationship with our breathing, our thoughts, and our body? Because those are three parts that are interconnected forever, right?
Right. So, like you said, with everything we do, we need the breath. And what I have come to appreciate is when people say, every time I'm stressed, I inhale and I don't exhale. Or the opposite. Some students say, I don't know how to inhale anymore. I'm just constantly in this, this tightly wound being. And that's the most important part of the meditation practice, because that's the goal. The goal is not to sit for an hour and be in a cave. The whole concept of the yoga practice, of the fitness enthusiasts, of meditation, is to actually be with the breath and know without the breath we are not living. So right. If one knows that that breath is the most important part of your life, and it's aligned with your mind and aligned with the body and aligned with whatever universal belief you have, it's almost as if you can imagine the breath as just a white light, that every time you inhale and exhale, it's just coming through you and inward and outward. And it's a beautiful thing, because without the breath, you and I would not be talking right now. That's how important it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And if you're okay with that, I'm curious about something. As I was reading about, you and preparing for our interview, I read something very interesting about guilt. And then the story was, and you correct me if I'm missing something, you were in one of the towers on like 9/11. I guess the first plane crash, I imagine that was just a terrible. And then you were going to take the stairs, and someone pulled you to the elevator. The elevator, I imagine, went down, you went out. And you were mentioning guilt, like how guilty you felt, that survival guilt, like you did survive but not other people. But I feel like that guilt in women is something that block empowerment, right? Like doesn't allow us sometimes to move forward. And for some reason, women, we tend to feel guilty for everything, anything, and especially with this role of moms, or, like women, we are more into being like the spirit of a mother, even if, you don't have kids. So how do you see guilt today, given everything that you went through?
First, I think guilt is an illusion. We make up the thought that we should feel guilty about the littlest things and the biggest things. And as you were talking, I was actually thinking about Mother Earth, how Mother Gaia takes in all of the pollution, takes in all of the abuse, but still takes care of us. And even though I'm not a mother, I raised my brother, and I realized when I was a teenager that if he didn't get his allowance every week, I'd feel guilty. If he didn't get good grades, I felt guilty. So it was still that motherly instinct that I had, and that definitely took the wind out of me in terms of an empowerment standpoint, because I felt if he was not going to be successful, I wasn't going to be successful. So it's that same type of parenting belief system. So that whole guilt, like I said, is an illusion, and we need to find that route where, what do we own? If that person is hurt by something that we did that was unintentional, or we try our best to please someone and they're still not appreciative, who owns that guilt? Why should we have to feel guilty off of somebody that doesn't feel the same way that we do? And I think that's what a lot of women go through right now. They want to please their kids, they want to please their husband, they want to please their significant other by friends, exactly, friends, a lot. And at some point, how much ownership can we take, and how much suffering can we hold in our hearts for things that the other person might not even be aware of?
Mm-hmm. That's that's totally true. And well, guilt is one of those villains that that sabotage all the time our cycle of success, right? So that's why I mentioned it, because I was when you mentioned the word guilt, as I was listening, I thought you were going to say so many other things except guilt, like that word guilt. It was like, wow, so strong. And then so you went from, because if you were in Wall Street, I imagine you were in the corporate world, right? Like with a corporate job. And then, so how was that shifting? Because what I have found of a lot of people that I have interviewed, very few finish high school to become a yoga instructor or leader or Pilates, or there is a whole journey behind. There is a shift in a transformation, a challenge. So you went from corporate job to something more spiritual. So how was that shifting? And why did you decide to leave, let's say, a steady income to something that we all know is also a bit more challenging? So
right.
It's just because many of our clients, followers, viewers probably want to do the transition, but there is always the fear of losing income, the fear of not having enough financially, or not even social status. Is overall like the comfort of certain income.
Well, I was in corporate America until 2002, and the person that I was with at the time, he was an entrepreneur forever, and he was also in corporate America. And so what he did was he became a mortgage broker and created his own mortgage business, and he brought me on. So he gave me a taste of what entrepreneurship was like. We made a lot of money, but in my mind, a year before September 11th, I was already forming my own consulting company that never went into fruition because of 9/11.
Mm.
So I still had that in me. And when the lockdown happened, right before that happened, I was actually consulting. So I was still on my own, but I was consulting. And when they did the lockdown, I had to find that inner strength, because I was not getting unemployment. I was not getting any kind of insurance. I was literally at the very bottom of where I was supposed to be, I felt, in my life. So I had to put my butt in gear, pretty much, reach out to people who were interested in a yoga practice, interested in meditation, trying to build their social network. I mean, I said to myself, if I'm at ground zero, then there's no other place to go but up. And so you have to, like, there's a feeling right in the gut, you know, that solar plexus chakra that that drives you, that prana that drives you to whatever it takes, just go ahead, go for it. Now, for those people who are currently in corporate America, who want to make that transition, that was very hard for me to do. But I was fortunate to have someone who was already successful and kind of took me out of that corporate setting. But if I didn't, it would probably take me a couple of years to really understand that leaving corporate America is not necessary if you're building something. Only that person knows when they're truly ready to leave corporate America. When I became an author, I was working part-time just to see, you know, just to make ends meet, just to see where I was going to be going with this. And the book became very successful, but at the same time, I still felt like I needed to be stable. That's why I went for a part-time consulting thing. So again, it's about that person, how strong and how they look at their financials. If that person has a year's worth of income that they can live by, that to me was what got me out of corporate America, because seeing what I had in the bank, seeing what plan B would be like if I lost that job, would I be able to sustain? So it's a level of stability. It's a level of, I mean, I think, you know, you just have to be concerned, you know, especially nowadays. But if we were not in COVID and everything was thriving, I still think it's important that that person looks at their life and says, you know, am I really ready to do this? And if you are, then make the appropriate steps. How many other steps, you know, baby steps into that whole transition.
Right. And then I'm going to shift gears a bit. And then Tucketts is all about feet. And so I wanted to know what your relationship is with your own feet in your yoga meditation journey, how that relationship has improved, changed, deteriorated, like what's about you and your feet?
The ability, I never, when I was practicing yoga at 4 years old with my dad, and he would always practice yoga in socks, not, you know, grippy socks, just regular socks. So in my thought, I had to practice with socks too. But then I realized that, you know, going barefoot, and I did my first yoga shoot in New York on grass, and it felt empowering. It felt calming. It felt grounding. And so when I practice every morning, when I'm barefoot, I look at my feet and I feel the connection. And when I host my meditation every week, I'm barefoot. It's unless it's like 30 degrees out. But otherwise, you know, I'm barefoot because I feel like it's the purest form of the body.
Yeah, totally. Like, that's why we created Tucketts, because when I did this market research for a friend to open a Pilates studio, I noticed, you know, like socks were mandatory. And for me, it's like a barefoot workout. If you cover completely your foot, you're not anymore there. It's like there's such a big disconnection. And then I was like, okay, so what can I do? And I tried different socks. And then I was like, no, if my toes are covered, it's something that it just doesn't work. And my mind is kind of somewhere else. So I couldn't feel grounded. So that's why we created the option of toeless socks. So having the toes free is still, you need the grippers either because it's mandatory or because you want to be safe, or some people sweat so much that they need to really some material in their feet to absorb the sweat, because sometimes the yoga mat is not enough. But I totally agree with you. I think the more bare contact you have with the ground, the better. Yeah, I do sometimes earthing. Like it's so important. Yeah.
Well, I teach with your socks, and one of my students wears your socks, and she had no idea that we've worked together already with, you know, yoga challenges and stuff like that. So she was like raving about them. She's like, I prefer my toes out. And I was like, yeah, there's a definite freedom in having socks that do not cover the toes, because the grip, which I personally love when I teach, because I need to feel aligned. And when I'm demonstrating my poses, if I'm not grounded and if I don't have those grippy socks, sometimes if I slip, that compromises my teaching, right? So it's I love your socks. I actually teach in them every time I teach. So
that's great. And then yeah, and for me it's about enhancing that foot brain connection. The more we study about the power of the toes and in general the feet and the brain, so it's like yes, and you need to have that connection and sensation. And then my very last question for you is, what's your higher purpose? I feel like, and the higher purpose probably have changed from 20 years ago to 10 years ago to 5 to now, right? So what's your higher purpose now?
the higher purpose that I've found is that my purpose is to give. My purpose is to give a part of myself, an experience that I have shared, in order to somehow have someone see that as something that they could live in their life with purpose.
Yeah. Giving. We're aligned on that. Well, this interview has been great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I think at the beginning of the interview, you mentioned that you're an explorer, right? And then I am on both sides, not only spiritual but physical. I'm also a very active explorer. So for everyone that's watching, and next week is going to be the last fireside chat of May, and I'm going to take a break for a month because my explorer is going to go to Tanzania. So,
yay!
Yeah, I'm going to do Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm so excited. And then, so we're going to have a break, but next week we have an amazing fireside chat. We will post all the information, but if you can attend it, please do it as well. And then after that, I will see everyone again in July. But Mikaila, thank you so much for being with us. Hopefully this is not going to be the last time that
no, I hope
we
not.
have this,
I hope not.
this
Thank
chat.
you.
And then you're already part of the Tucketts family. So
yes.
I appreciate so much your time and how open you have been and all the tips that you have given us. Definitely you're an inspiration. And then everyone have a nice rest of the week. Mikaila, thank you so much. I send you a big hug. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.